And we are now at the end of one cycle and the beginning of a new one, coming out of the time of our lowest level of consciousness. And we're now at a critical time as humanity where I think we have the capacity to make an evolutionary leap into higher consciousness. This is the time now, 12,000 years later, where we're at another crisis point. But we were put to sleep, and now it's time to wake up. We got caught in trauma 6,000 years ago. We've forgotten that we're soul selves part of infinity. And when we get caught in that fear of death, then it can lead to the trauma responses of fight, flight, freeze. There are all these solar energies coming to us. Galactic Center has reactivated. The Earth herself is in a transformational process. We are being so held in love and the wisdom of the earth and sky, trying to guide us through this time of healing and awakening. If we don't wake up and participate with this incredible quantum leap, then the Earth will go through another cataclysmic reset to help us heal, wake up.
Well, hello, everybody. I am delighted and honored to have the beautiful, wonderful, kind, grounded, centered, amazing Heather Ensworth with us, who is not only a clinical psychologist, an astrologer, an educator, a wisdom keeper of the divine feminine, and more, but she has also recently written an incredible book that is called Astrological Ages and the Galactic Center. And it just came out, right? Did it just?
In March.
Okay.
Just around the time of 3i Atlas's pass by Jupiter.
Of course it did. Big as that. And you guys can get it on Amazon. And I just had an opportunity to read it. And it's so amazing because we're all going through, not all, but many of us, I know I am, so much as we try to grapple with what's happening on the planet and the transitions that we're feeling emotionally, energetically, spiritually. Our concern and worry for our resources, wars popping up, governments acting insane. And, we wonder what the heck is going on and why is it happening? And this book really helps us put it into context on many different levels. And so I was hoping we could just delve into that today and kind of unpack some of that. And as there were some things here that I didn't fully, completely understand and grasp, maybe other people, you could help to really reveal what's going on. So the main thing, I mean, there's so many things you talk about: the binary star, you talk about the precessional cycle, the Yuga cycle, ancient sites and civilizations. But when you talk about this 24,000 precessional cycle, tell us what exactly that means and what's going on, so we have a better context.
All right. Well, thank you, Kelly. And it's wonderful to be here. I have such deep respect for you and your work. So it's great to be in conversation with you again. Yes, I think it's so helpful to understand this larger 24,000 year precessional cycle that really speaks to our evolution of consciousness as humanity on the planet. Because if we can understand that larger context, then we can understand why this time that we're in is so intense and how we can navigate it. And in the book, I'm looking at the precessional cycle, which is the shifting of the astrological ages, which we track. And what is extraordinary to realize is ancient cultures dating back 12,000 years were very in tune with these larger cycles and encoded them in stone in their sacred sites, leaving us messages for this time, like the pyramids on the Giza Plateau, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, sites in Peru. So this precessional cycle is also the same as the Hindu Yuga cycle. And it speaks not only to how we move through these different astrological ages about every 2,000 years, but that we move through a time of ascending consciousness for 12,000 years and then descending consciousness for 12,000 years. And we are now at the end of one cycle and the beginning of a new one, coming out of the time of our lowest level of consciousness, the Kali Yuga, about stretching back about 5,000 to 6,000 years. And we're now at a critical time as humanity where I think we have the capacity to make an evolutionary leap into higher consciousness if we tune into the guidance that we're getting from the earth and the sky to heal, to awaken, to be in this time of profound transformation.
And so, Heather, do you feel, I know you recently traveled to Egypt, you were in Malta, you were in the Hypogeum, which is one of my absolute favorite places. And these places carry this frequency, and Göbekli Tepe has so many symbols on there and pointing to the stars and how they've aligned and understand the cosmos. Do you feel that they were trying to share something with us? And is there something in our soul that is calling so many of us to take these sacred journeys and trips right now to touch that frequency? And in doing so, is that awakening something in us, or how do you think that is supporting us in our remembering and on this journey? Like, what perhaps did they leave behind for us, and what are they trying to tell us? What's your experience? Because I know that you are connected to these sites.
Well, that's so beautifully said, Kelly. And some of what got me into studying the precessional cycle was traveling to some of these ancient sacred sites and realizing they had advanced understandings of mathematics, astronomy, technology beyond what we can imagine. Exactly. So our whole modern understanding of history, that modern civilization started about 5,000 years ago and we're now at the pinnacle of our development, is just not true. And then I realized, as I did more exploration, that in this precessional cycle, we have these crisis points every 12,000 years. And sites like the really ancient temples in Egypt, Göbekli Tepe, were built after that crisis time, the Younger Dryas period, 12,000 years ago, to alert us, I think, that this is the time now, 12,000 years later, where we're at another crisis point. And if we can really take in their wisdom, we can be guided how to work with this time in a way that can be healing and transformational for us.
And so does it feel to you like their wisdom is pointing us back to looking at the stars, communing with the stars again, with the elements, with getting out of our narrow-minded black and white focus of this dimension and just opening our awareness to more? We're coming more in contact, sort of as if our being is expanding, that we're expanding, and more and more people are having greater awareness of the importance of the stars, of the elements, or even like in Malta, in the Hypogeum, the sound is so profound, right? The acoustics, the energy, the vibration, the womb, and even in modern architecture, if we look over time, it's become less and less and less sacred and connected and aligned. And all of these structures were aligned with not only, I think, the stars, but also the elements and the inner earth. And so maybe they're inviting us to remember that and start to cultivate and bring that back online if we're going to, I don't want to say survive, but if we're going to make a positive quantum leap in our evolution.
That is so accurate, in that part of what I realized studying these ancient sites, and you've experienced it in these ancient sites like the Hypogeum, they had such an attunement to sacred geometry, to working with light and sound. You see this in Saqqara Temple in Egypt. The sound resonance in the Great Pyramid is amazing. And they were creating these energy fields that are profoundly healing and transformational. And as you said, they have these very powerful alignments with certain star systems. Also, they were very consciously placed over ley lines, carrying certain earth energies, and over underground water. And we know now how much water holds consciousness and the memories of the earth. So they were very conscious about building these sacred sites in these alignments with the energies of the earth and sky. And part of what is so extraordinary in these ancient cultures is their understanding that everything is conscious and we're meant to be in right balance with cosmic order, right relationship with the sacredness of all of life. In ancient Egypt, they called that the principle of Ma'at, being in right harmony, right balance. In ancient Peru, they call it Aini, reciprocity, right relationship. And I think in this last 5,000 years, we've lost connection with that. We've gotten caught in the illusion of our separation from source, from the earth, from the sky, from each other. And it's created these out of balance, destructive patterns that we've been in and the power over paradigms that we've been in. And I think these ancient sacred sites are reminding us how we can come back into harmony, come back into alignment and relationship with the energies of the earth and sky, come back into that conscious communion and communication with the earth and stars and planets. So they're supporting us in waking up and remembering what we once knew to support us in this transition time.
Yeah, and it seems as though we were cut off almost deliberately. I don't even want to say that, but in a sense, we were so cut off from being in union with life that we thought somehow we were separate from the stars. And then even looking to the stars for guidance was woo-woo. Oh, you're into astrology, you're like back in the day, right? That's just woo craziness. But why would we even begin to think that we could be separate from the stars, or that our relationship to them, or that the way that they move didn't have an impact on us, just like the moon has an impact on the rhythms of the waters. And then we were so disconnected from any of the indigenous teachings and ceremony and the ancient sites and cultures of communion and connection. And it's almost like that severing has just spiraled us into this state that we find ourselves in now. And in order to come back into right relationship, like you're saying, we need to weave together the inner earth and the cosmos through our bodies, and those currents and those ley lines you were speaking of. Coincidentally, today in class, we connected on the Michael ley line from Israel to Ireland. And we allowed our whole body to lay down on the Michael Mary ley line from Israel to Ireland, and every node, whether it was through Italy or Greece or France, activated a node, a meridian, a chakra within our own body. And then our feet were grounded like the root, like the tree of life in Israel. And we got up to the crown in Ireland, to the shining ones. And then we stood up as the avatar body with the ley line running through our body, so that the current of that energy that we've denied, that we've suppressed, that we've forgotten about, that these ancient sites you're speaking of are placed deliberately upon, start to awaken inside us, and we become that living current in alignment with the earth. And we remember, and I don't know, but it seems like the ancient ones, or whether they bathe, from any indigenous culture, they knew those currents, they knew those spaces, that not only in the alignment to the stars, but something that was going on in the magnetic field in the earth. And then they always had their ceremony, their ritual there. And then different religions would build a course upon it and on
Mm.
top of it, and then we wouldn't remember anymore, and it would be some cathedral. But when we knock everything down, we get to the core, right? There's this beautiful seed point of energy that we're all drawn to because we remember on some level we want to be there on that current, but that current is moving through us. And I think it's this remembering, whether we do it energetically or we travel or we stand on these places or we look at the stones at Göbekli Tepe or we feel the sounds reverberating through Malta, that it's stirring something in our codes, in our DNA, that says, wait a minute, you have to reconnect with the galactic core and the inner core. And you talk a lot about the galactic core. So you want to share with us what that means and how do we connect with the galactic core?
Well, what you're saying, I think, before getting into that, is so important in that it really is that ancient wisdom and what we understand from the Hermetic principles and what the indigenous people didn't forget, that everything is interconnected. As above, so below. As it is outside of us, so it is within us. As it is within us, so it is outside of us. Wow. So when we realize everything is interconnected, then we begin to understand how those sacred sites are such a reminder and an honoring of that. And creating these morphogenic fields to support us in staying in right alignment, right harmony, right balance. And I don't know whether there's some deeper meaning in the precessional cycle that we, as a Peruvian shaman, Puma Simona, that I just talked about, we were put to sleep and now it's time to wake up. But I also feel like we got caught in trauma 6,000 years ago when there were some more earth crises, and it led to cultural collapse, and I think it led to a fear of death and trauma response. And I believe we've been caught in a trauma response as humanity for the last 5,000 years.
And does it feel like that trauma response is just looping and looping and looping?
Yes.
And in order for us to break it, and we have to break it obviously all on our own personal levels, right? That continues to go through. How can the stars and these ancient sites and our attuning to these cultures help us clear what we need to clear so that we can come back into right relationship, not with just the earth and each other, but with ourselves? Because this is really interesting that you're talking about that we have this great fear of death, which aligns with the fact that we have forgotten our divinity.
Exactly. We've forgotten that we're soul selves, part of infinity. And when we get caught in that fear of death, then it can lead to the trauma responses of fight, flight, freeze, fawning. And so much of, I think, what we're seeing in the last 5,000 years in our human history is just a repeated pattern of trauma begetting trauma. And we need to bring that into conscious awareness. And I believe that some of the intensity of what's happening on the planet right now is a purging, we're being shown, it's brought into conscious awareness how out of balance we've become, how traumatized we are, and how we are mired in these really destructive patterns. And I think in so many ways, the earth and sky are bringing that into our awareness so that we can be conscious of it, so that we can choose to heal individually and collectively. And I think it is so amazing. I mean, you and I have talked about 3i Atlas, and now there's this microquasar active in the constellation Cygnus. There are all these solar energies coming to us. The Galactic Center has reactivated. The Earth herself is in a transformational process. We are being so held in love and the wisdom of the earth and sky, trying to guide us through this time of healing and awakening and transformation, if we open to it, if we come back into attunement and come back into relationship, then we'll be guided through this transformational time. But I do think, and this is what's so profound about what you've been doing with the light codes, Kelly, because I do think as the ancient wisdom understood and indigenous cultures never forgot, when you go through this kind of rite of passage, it involves a death rebirth. We have to die to these old patterns. We have to let go of these out of balance power over paradigms and ways that we've constructed our lives in our modern cultures, and be in a liminal time, a time of not knowing, a time of being in the mystery, to be guided into the resurrection, the rebirth, the new ways of being. And I think astrologically, we're being guided in a 7-year period from March 2025, when the Kali Yuga ended, to June 2032, when at the end of June, Saturn and Uranus will be in an exact conjunction, and they're about new paradigms, new forms, new ways of being, and they'll be in the upraised arm of Orion, which for the ancient Egyptians was resurrection.
Exactly. With
cosmic order rises out of chaos.
Absolutely. So then it feels as though potentially from this understanding that for the next 7 years, where many things will continue to show up and be revealed. And because we're in a different state of consciousness, perhaps in the past, the way we would see things, we'll see them very differently, with appreciation almost that they're arising as an opportunity for healing. But we're also kind of seeing behind the curtain, right, of things that before we would take as absolute, that we start to question things. We start to, I'm not okay with that. We speak up more revolutionary energy, people not necessarily agreeing and being submissive to this higher power energy being forced down upon. And I think a cry out for, what are we doing as a humanity? Like, how is it even possible that we're still throwing bombs at each other, that we're molesting children? I mean, these are horrible, horrible trauma responses, cycles of repeat that come from embedded in the blood, in the ancient codes of our ancestors, that are repeating through tribal energies. Like, this happened to them, and then they do it to their kid, and they do it to the next tribe, right? And so when are we going to heal and be like, it's enough? And the more it shows its ugly face, perhaps that's the light shining on it. As hard as it is this opportunity to stand up and be like, no, I'm not participating in that consciousness. I'm not participating in the agreement that collectively that's where we still are. I'm choosing to see that we're somewhere else, and I'm putting my energy in the creation of something new. And as more and more of us have that new state of awareness and consciousness, we're building a new morphogenetic field that begins to mirror back to us a reality that that takes that leap you're talking about out of this trauma response that we're looped in. And we're at a choice point, right? And we need to do this personally and collectively so that we don't repeat that cycle you're speaking of and do a whole nother cycle of trauma response.
Well, my sense, Kelly, is if we don't wake up and participate with this incredible quantum leap that the cosmos is calling us to really make this radical shift in our consciousness, then the earth will go through another cataclysmic reset to help us heal, wake up, and come back into balance. But you and I both, I know, feel and see in our communities that there's already a dimensional divide on the planet. That so many people are waking up. And as a clinical psychologist, I am stunned at how rapidly now we can heal when we open to the energies that are supporting us in healing and awakening and transforming. So many people are opening to expanding consciousness, coming back in to communication with the energies of the earth and sky, and collaborating to co-create new ways of being on the planet.
Exactly.
It's happening. And at the same time, we're seeing the darkest of the dark playing out on the planet. And I think it's the last gasp.
It feels that way, like they're just gripping on because
Yes.
they realize that they're losing control.
Because they're dying. Those
They're
forms are
dying
dying.
off. And
And
they
they're
are,
trying to hang on.
yeah, because it's a sense of power and control and comfortability, but all of those things we can look at like the boogeyman outside doing it, but they're all pieces in our own framework that we need to heal and bring to the surface and look at and not deny, right? I mean, it's the inner alchemy, that as within, so without, as above, so below, alpha, omega, all of that. It's our own inner journey that, although it may seem minuscule compared to the great cosmos, does have an enormous impact on the collective because we're all connected.
It is a morphogenic field. And the Peruvian shamans and others describe how if enough of us, even a minority of us, make that shift, it emanates, as you said, into the morphogenic field and can transform the collective consciousness. So we each have to take responsibility for the choices that we make. And you and I both are so aware that we can't do a spiritual bypass and just sort of catapult ourselves up into higher consciousness. It does mean doing that deep inner work to face these out of balance patterns in ourselves, to clear our own wounds and our own ancestral trauma, so that we can then be these vehicles for love and healing to be in us and flow through us. And I think we're getting such support from the earth and from the cosmos to be in that process of healing and transformation. But I think that's really the critical time that we're in, and that it is a karmic choice point.
It really is. And I'm glad you mentioned the spiritual bypassing piece, because even in my own community, people will receive an activation and they're all blissed out, but they have to integrate what was said, what was processed, and embody it. Otherwise, it's just like you're in la la land, right? You're receiving this energy and it feels beautiful, but are you changing? Are you acting upon the gifts that are coming in? And I love the idea that, and I know it to be absolute and true, that we are so deeply supported by, the star beings, the galactic ones, the angelic realm. Even within the angelic kingdom, as I've attuned to them, they're opening up into these orders of leading us to like the seraphim, right? That are so filled with so much light that maybe we didn't even tune to in the past because we weren't ready to receive that much light because their frequency was too overwhelming for us. But as we're moving into our light body, they're assisting us more because we're more in a match with their vibrations. And same thing with the inner earth. Like we could probably go so far, and now we're going deeper and deeper into the core. So both as above, so below, is extending, and we're that bridge in between. And it's literally our body temple and our consciousness that's bridging these two polar energies that are creating a unified field. And so as people open up to inviting the star beings or the angelic realm or the inner beings and the water and the elements back into their reality, they're expanding their consciousness and their field to hold more light, basically, for the planet.
And circling back to the Galactic Center,
Yeah.
it's the womb, the sacred womb of our universe.
Mm.
that has given birth to all that is.
Yeah.
And it has, as of 2024, reactivated. So it's sending out these cosmic energies, helping us awaken and heal. And I think what's powerful about the Galactic Center is it's a reminder, and the ancient cultures understood this, that the energy of the center connects us to source, connects us to cosmic consciousness. Our center chakra is the heart. When we connect with our hearts, we're able to open to cosmic consciousness and remember who we truly are and come back into alignment with our soul selves, that part of us that is a part of infinity. And all the ancient temple sites had this deep understanding of the energy of the center.
Mm.
You know, Ibrahim Karim, the architect in Egypt who studied ancient temple science, talks about how that energy of center emanates these energies that are healing, are transformational, do reconnect us with the energies of cosmic consciousness. So I think, and for me, my daily practice is working with the ancient medicine wheel, where you're walking the journey of going around the wheel, but then coming to center, coming into that alignment with the earth and sky, with your heart, with the connection with your soul self, and alignment with the oneness of all that is. That's what we're being called back into. And I think the precessional cycle, the astrological chart, they're all a form of the medicine wheel.
Mm.
And the key is come to center, come into that awareness that we are each a fractal expression of cosmic consciousness, but we're all part of the oneness of all that is. And when we're in the center, we can remember that we have that connection with infinity, and we're embodied here to be a unique expression of cosmic consciousness in this sacred form, in this time. So I think that's a huge wisdom that the Galactic Center gives us, and its energies activate that remembrance in us and guide us in how we can have practices here in our embodiment that bring us back to center, bring us back into alignment. And to me, that's been a huge part of what's helped me navigate these intense times. And more, when I come to the center of the medicine wheel, I connect down to the core of the earth, up to the Galactic Center, let those energies run through me to clear me, align me, bring me back to alignment with my soul self and the oneness of all that is.
Exactly. And when we can be in that center, all the chaos and the craziness that's going around, we are witness to it, we notice it, but we're not affected by it. And that is like we're working with the protective energy, but protection is being in your center. It's being in presence. It's in self-love. It's in centeredness. And so that's interesting that you're sharing about the galactic core as the core, the center, the energy that holds us, but the womb space also, the place of the emptiness, the blackness, the place of creation, the birth. And so from our center, we can enter the womb space, which is the creation space, where we can then give birth to new realms, to new worlds, to new realities. But we can't do that if we're off our center. We can't open up the creative energy, the womb space, to birth a new reality, which is what we're hoping in this process to do if we're not in the center. So if the core is running through us, I wonder if there's ways for us to align with the galactic center and invite that powerful frequency to move through our bodies so we can remain grounded and steadfast. And just, I guess, simple things through the breath and the alignment and attunement to it.
And to me, that ancient medicine wheel practice is such a way to embody it, to walk it, to work it, to be in the energies that are connecting us to the four directions, to all the elements, connecting us to the sacredness of the life all around us, but also that remembrance that we are soul selves, part of this infinite experience, and then to literally come to center and feel those energies, feel how it awakens our hearts, and feel how then it is the eye of the storm. It is the calm in the turbulence of whatever's going on in our lives. And it gives us that perspective of the soul self so that we don't get so identified with the turbulence or the stresses and challenges in our day-to-day lives. We can see them as part of our journey of growth and evolution, but not be mired in those experiences. And then it helps us be on that path of healing and integration and transformation. And I think a key part of it, like you said, is I love that our view of the Galactic Center is that dark rift in the Milky Way. It is the fertile void. It is the womb space. And we need to honor, again, being in the mystery, being in the time of not knowing, to be giving birth to these new ways of being. We need to honor that this is a time of death, rebirth, death, resurrection, and not feel like we can either cling to the forms of the past or just override this turbulence of this time and expect it all to change. We have to find that change within us and allow ourselves to be in that deep inner transformational process of death, rebirth.
Yeah, and I think probably that on a lot of levels we were sharing before we started, I think so many people are attuning to or asking or wanting more spaciousness, more, a little bit more emptiness, more room, which would be the womb, and to just be, to lay in that feminine energy, to be held in the not knowing, in the liminal, right? In the space in between where we don't know what's ahead, and we can let go of that and just fall back into that creational womb energy and be present with it and continue to bring presence and stillness more into our experience without a need to figure it out or what's going to happen next, to just allow, trust, witness, and in that it will evolve, because we've been so deeply programmed to figure it out, make it happen, know what's next, create a goal, such masculine energies. And they're so embedded in our DNA and our way of being. But until we bring that divine feminine aspect back into some type of coherent balance within ourselves, we're just going to repeat those trauma responses. And it's not easy, right, to let go.
Well, you know, what's really interesting too, Kelly, is part of what I think we're dealing with in this time of change is astrology itself is transforming. And our tropical zodiac charts are sort of locked in time in the age of Aries and haven't shifted with precession. So they're actually more about the seasonal energies now than where things are in the sky. But we've recently had this powerful stellium in the chart in Aries, which is that energy of doing, action, yang energy. And it is the out of balanced energies of the power over paradigms that we got caught in the age of Aries. But what I love in the living sky, that whole stellium of planets are actually in the stars of Pisces, saying, surrender, let go. Remember that you're held in the oneness and compassion of the cosmos. And I love that Hopi prophecy that speaks to this time that we're in. And it's not about figuring out what to do or how we take action, like we're so used to doing, like you just described. But the Hopi prophecy says, let go of the shore, be in the river. You don't
Mm,
know where you're going. The
mhm,
river knows where you're going.
mhm,
Surrender to the river. Be in the flow and lift your head and see who else is there with you.
mhm,
But it so speaks to how part of what I find so comforting in this time is that when we go into silence, when we allow ourselves to come back into connection and communication with the energies of the earth and sky, to let ourselves dissolve, to be like the caterpillar in the chrysalis, letting go
mm,
and giving up the form of the past without knowing how we're going to fully emerge in a new way, then we feel held in the love and wisdom of the cosmos, guiding us into this transformation, into the butterfly, into Homo luminous ones, beings of light and love. But it
mm.
means not doing and figuring it out and mastering it.
And
It means
hanging on tight to the edge of that river, right?
it
All of our life, like that
means
we are,
surrendering ourselves to
yeah,
the
we have
flow.
the flow. And when we do surrender ourselves to the flow, as hard as it can be, we don't have to do it for long, and everything starts lining up, and magic happens, and
Yes.
synchronicity, and sweetness, and abundance, and love. But we're
Synchronicities.
everything, right? But we're so conditioned to hang on to the edge because we don't know what's going to happen. So just like, larger energies may be grasping to the old paradigm, we're grasping as well, of course, right, to what's familiar, which is to figure it out and make it happen and know what's next. And so that story, the Hopi story, is just gave me chills because it's so poignant and beautiful and exactly what is being called of us right now on such a deep heart level to trust, to let go, to open, and to feel that womb space holding us, supporting us, and whether that and whoever that might be, whether it's a beautiful goddess you feel holding you, a divine mother energy, or it's the sweetness of Sekhmet that's not so sweet but intense and fiercely protecting you and holding you, or it's a Lyran being from or the stars or whatever, that we're all tuning in and just handing it over, handing it over, handing it over. I keep putting stuff in my hand and I'm literally, okay, divine, take it. You figure it out. I'm out.
Well, and honoring that we are in this chrysalis time, that we are in the dissolving and the not knowing fully how we're going to emerge. But I more and more feel how the energies of the earth and sky are so actively sending their love and support and guidance. We're rediscovering how water holds consciousness and memories of the earth, and when we connect with it, it's reminding us of who we truly are and what we're capable of. And Three Eye Atlas is activating the planets to call them back into balance and us back into balance with those energies within us, to reclaim the integration of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine. And I sometimes feel like the cosmos is doing everything but putting a neon sign in the sky to say, you are supported, you are loved, you are guided. We are here to carry you through this process if you come back into relationship.
Exactly. If you can get off your phone long enough to go out and look at the stars and feel their energy, they're right there. They're just so right there. We just have to take a moment and say hello, and there they are, right? Trying to commune with us, share with us, love us, support us through this transition, because it also affects the larger universe. Whatever unfolding is happening here on the planet ripples out, of course, into the whole cosmos. Ah, well, thank you. So, for those who are listening, if you want to just tap into this broader picture and the rhythm and the undercurrent, the teachings and the memories, then I encourage you to read Heather's
Mm,
book and to feel into this ancient wisdom. It feels very ancient. It
mm,
feels like you're able to
mm,
merge your clinical psychology and your understanding of the psyche and its relationship to the cosmos and to the stars and to ancient civilizations and to the cycles of the Yuga cycle. And it's just filled with so much wisdom and information. And you know how sometimes you're reading a book and it's just reading the book itself awakens you, it helps you remember, it turns on something, it brings you into your core, into your balance. And this book does that. So I hope
mm,
that people will take time out of their busy life and just tune into this. So because when we can understand things from a larger perspective, that opens our aperture, our framework in our to move through our reality and with more balance and alignment and attunement to these higher realms. So thank you, Heather, for carrying that energy and spreading all of your wisdom and ancient understanding and connection to the cosmos and the earth. Which is wonderful about you is that you study astrology, but you're also so deeply connected to the indigenous wisdom. So you are holding those poles of
mm,
both of those. And then you add in the element of the emotional aspect through your clinical understanding of psychology and how our emotions and the humanness of our everyday experiences is connected to all of that and how that's woven together. And I think that that's critical right now because many of us may be feeling a lot of emotion of what's happening, but not be able to put it in a framework where we can understand the context of what's happening. And when we can, I think that helps us do what they're asking us to let go in the river more and to trust in these bigger cycles and our participation in them and to feel held by the universe. Yeah.
Beautifully said. And I do feel like part of the shift that we're in is a waking up and a remembering. And
Hmm.
that as we can remember who we truly are and what we're capable of, then we open more and more to that communication and connection with the earth and the sky and the cosmos and know that we're held and guided and loved.
And we are. And so, anybody out there listening, just try to feel into and remember that you are held and loved and safe and cared for, and that you are more than your body. And this moment in time, you're a consciousness of light. And one last question, I'm just curious what your perception is. You know, we're working with birthing this new human, stepping into our avatar self. Then we talk, you know, lots of people in their work talk about this, the chrysalis, like we're going through this transformation, but on our consciousness level, but also on a biological level, that we are awakening into more light.
Yeah.
We're becoming more light. And so what does that feel like to you, or how do you see that?
I do think it's extraordinary. And part of what I've been investigating more recently is this reactivation of this binary, this microquasar in Cygnus,
Mm.
who's associated with Isis in her kite hawk form,
Oh,
who in her kite hawk form is when she revives and resurrects Osiris, who's been caught in chaos and destruction and disconnection. Sound familiar, like what's happening on the earth?
yeah.
And this this these cosmic energies coming from that binary in Cygnus, coming from the Galactic Center, activate our DNA, are transforming us physically, and are likely the activation that took us into the golden age, the age of Scorpio, 16,000 BCE. So there's a way in which we are really being activated by these energies to not only wake up, but be in this transformational process on every level. And again, if we don't resist it, if we open to it and clear the blocks and trauma that we need to clear to be able to integrate those energies, we are being called into a transformational process.
We really are. We are truly in an evolutionary process, not just through consciousness, but biologically. And I think Three Eye Atlas and other visitors coming are supporting us in that evolution, whether we're consciously aware or we can pinpoint exactly what's happening. Many of us can feel it. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
everybody, hang in and got this. All right.
Be in the river.
Be in the river. Let go. We love you. All right, Heather. Well, thanks so much. And I hope that people, one more time, just so that they can see, in case they didn't, this is the book. You can see it on Amazon. And it's, go get it. All right.
Thank you, Kelly.
Okay. Mwah. Thanks, Heather. Talk soon.
Love you too. Bye-bye.